Thanks, Martha. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Kai and Lauren, for those great prose pieces. Thrilling stuff. Can't wait for your novel, Kai, and your nonfiction work, Lauren. I was thinking as Lauren read that piece about being turned down by the guard for entry and that feeling of powerlessness. I think that's how it feels, at least in election. We all feel like we're turned back from the gates. And I'm not going to go there yet. I'm going to start somewhere else, and then I'll go there. It's a new poem that I'm going to dedicate to Eric, because I promised to mail it to him and I never did, so now I'll read it to him. So it's called Shine. It's a poem for a tree. It's a big Douglas fir tree that stands in front of the art building, Fairbanks Hall on the OSU campus. A very charismatic tree that you can feel the reach of many, many yards before you reach it. Shine. After a month of rain, we're all a little depressed, light deprived, and mush-brained. Except for that snaggle-toothed old conifer that stands alone beside Fairbanks Hall. It's in fine feather, flexing its muscles in the wind, green hair gelled with rain. A squall from the west is like having old friends knock at your door, fiddle, banjo, and hooch in hand. Lucky the creature for whom rain is moonshine. There'll be a hot time in the downpour tonight. Jerry told me he read this poem to some friends recently. It's a depressed by politics poem, so it's time to go there. This one was after election we look back at now with almost nostalgia. This was the 2004 election, and George Bush stole the election from John Kerry. A mild kind of theft we now know. This is called Cold Soil. I'm listening to the latest returns on the radio. The country seems bent on re-electing greed. To salvage the hour, I break up heads of garlic, slitting the skin around the neck with a paring knife, pressing my thumbs in beside the stem, prying out one clove at a time. As I drop each clove into the bowl, I mutter a string of curses and prayers, breaking up garlic as an irreverent rosary. I have to plant this garlic before dark. The moon is not right, the weather is against me, but I need to put my hands in the dirt today. I need to sow something. I'd be smarter to wait a few days until the rain lets up, but I can't wait. Some things can only be sown into coldness. I pry open another head and another, praying to the earth to transform my anger into compassion, or at least into garlic. Yeah, got to do something, right? And gardening is one thing we can do. I keep wishing that that powerful people would come to the fore and make more of a contribution to the many challenges we have. It used to be, it seemed like we'd get rich people on board with climate change, we'd be able to make a big leap forward. Now just everything needs people to stand behind it. But still, it's fun to imagine what would happen if powerful people got on board. So that's what this fantasizes. It's called the uber rich step up. Mayor Bloomberg has vowed to take shorter showers. The Koch brothers are lowering the thermostats 2 degrees in every one of their mansions. Rupert Murdoch has ordered a fleet of Priuses for his domestic staff. When all the billionaires of the Walton family changed to compact fluorescent light bulbs, they saved enough energy to buy Corpus Christi, Texas. Corporations are doing their part too. Goldman Sachs is making compost with 5 years of shredded account sheets. British Petroleum is recycling advertising strategies from the tobacco industry. Whole mountains are being removed in the effort to bring you clean coal. Changes in the air. Citizens, we invite you to sit back and watch it all happen on television. Yeah. Try to get over it, Charles. I'm going to do a little seasonal set here now. Which I oftentimes try to rethink holidays, take Christian holidays and make them pagan, or take, in this case, take a shopping holiday and make it environmental, try to rescue us from some of our bad habits. So this one's called Black Friday. I bet there were a lot of people. How many people did not spend a dime yesterday? Look at that, almost 100%. Almost 100%. Yeah. I don't spend a dime a lot of days, but I make a point of really trying to turn my back on that abomination. Black Friday. Deep in the brambles, a winter wren scavenges insects for her supper, talking to herself in buzzing little syllables. Otherwise, things are quiet in the woods. It's the day after Thanksgiving. Signs everywhere of recent feasting. Beside the river, a scrubby willow has been clipped off, the clean impression of beaver teeth indented in the stump. At the base of a cedar, a fresh owl pellet, chock full of white bones and gray fur. And here, in the center of the trail, splayed out in artful array, the scrub jay's wings sail on through a scatter of gray and blue breast feathers, right where the fox left them. I'm sure it will be a busy day at the mall. There are supposed to be bargains galore. I can believe it, because the catkins of the wild filberts are already an inch long. And now the wren flits to a branch above the trail and scolds me for undisclosed offenses. Prosperity abounds. It's a poem about the wonders of home ownership. When the pipes freeze on Christmas Eve, I crawl under the house with my wife's hairdryer and a trouble light. Some unwelcome guest, a raccoon maybe, or a cat, has shredded the insulation from the copper pipe where it rises from the ground. I crawl to the far corner, prop myself on one elbow, aim the hairdryer, and look around at all the little packages dangling from the floor joists, wrapped in gobs of dust and moldering cobwebs. Gifts from Santa's doppelganger, the evil twin brother who lives at the other pole. Gifts of husks and vacancies, of loss and desolation. Maybe the gift of empty space every death makes for the rest of us. By the time the pipe thaws and the water gurgles back to life, I have remembered many such gifts, and I'm ready for a hot shower and a little celebrating. started, and speaking of doppelgangers, this is a doppelganger fir tree poem. End of December, it's called. These are all prose poems in Going to Seed. This is a prose poem. End of December. They're planting their potted Christmas tree in the front yard. Dad and the young daughter dig the hole, the girl leaping on the shovel with both feet. Day is gray and cold, but Dad has worked up a good sweat, and Mom, bouncing an infant in her arms, says something to the girl and laughs. The Douglas fir is only as tall as the girl, and green as deep summer shade. Wisps of tinsel twinkle from its limbs. For the next few years, they will string it with lights and garlands of cranberries for the birds. By the time the girl finishes high school, the father's tall ladder won't reach the top, and they'll give up decorating it for Christmas. You have to admire them, setting this tree loose in their small yard. You have to believe that this little ceremony will serve them well when their parents are old and the tree has heaved their sidewalk and darkened their windows, when they lie sleepless, stiff with fear, as the tree limbs groan and scrape at the roof on a stormy December night. You know those trees, don't you? There's one in every neighborhood, many in most. Oh, put that tree so close to that house. One of the things that I'm lamenting most about the election, oh God, there's so many things to lament about this, but you know, I have written a lot about creatures, about insects and birds and trees, and you know, I love to think that I'm doing some useful work as a person who gives voice to nature and creatures that don't have a voice, and now there are so many people that don't have a voice. And when I give my little bit of money that I used to give to environmental organizations, I'm giving it to the ACLU and the Southern Poverty Law Center, and it hurts. But I do want to keep my eyes on the backyard and keep my eyes on the birds and remember to think of them as well. So I'm going to read one insect poem. Continuing as our seasonal round, this takes us into deep winter. It's called Ladybugs. Every January they re-emerge, anchorites from within our walls, and cloister themselves on the upstairs window for a few weeks of fasting and travail. By day they wander the glass like desert mendicants, each bug nothing but a robe and a begging bowl. By night, they huddle in a corner of the casement, a little heap of rosary beads, a handful of prayers incarnate. Winter being the season of doom, I have my own austerities to attend to. But mornings, when I find their eclipsed bodies on the windowsill, lovely and empty as little lacquered urns, I sweep them up with a feather duster and return them to the garden. This is an elegy for machines. It's called The Terravores. The Terravores. I'm going to miss them, those lumbering yellow road graders, bulldozers and belly scrapers grazing at the edge of town. When the gas is gone, I'll miss watching the little boys point and squeal with excitement as the big machines unerringly peel the face from another wheat field. Most of all, I'll miss their awful placidity at night, bedded down in the moon shade of scorched oaks like perfect beasts. I really will miss them. I'm going to finish with 2 persona poems. One is by a friend of mine. Martha mentioned that I edited a couple anthologies, and this is a new one that just came out this spring from University of Washington Press called Forest Understory, Creative Inquiry in Old Growth Forest. Many of you probably know that Spring Creek Project hosts a writing residency program at the H.J. Andrews Experimental Forest. We invite a couple writers, well-known writers a year, and then accept others by application. We've just finished our 13th year. We've had 70 writers there. Everybody contributes some writing to our online archive, and we just selected some of the best writing from that and published it in Forest Understory, poems by Jane Hirschfield and Patty Ann Rogers and Robert Michael Pyle, essayists and poets, of many of them highly accomplished and others early in their career. So it's a mix of prose and poetry with some, I wrote the introductory essay, and with my colleague Fred Swanson, the scientist, we wrote a few kind of contextual science essays that are spaced throughout the book. But I wanted to read you my favorite of the poems in here by Northern California poet named Jerry Martine. We asked all the writers in residence to go to 4 sites in the forests, research sites, and the one that the writers like most is called log decomp. It's a long-term log decomposition study that has imagined to go on for 200 years. That's how long it would take the logs to rot. And it's a beautiful place in old growth forest, so it's just flat out gorgeous. A few of you have been there. And the poets love to go there and contemplate death. And get down with the rot and the decay. So we've gotten some really good stuff from the log decomp site, including this one. It's called Return of the Dead Log People. So a couple more notes. So this is in the Blue River drainage. He mentions Blue River. The scientist who's worked there, Mark Harmon, who works next door to a silviculturalist in the College of Forestry at OSU, says, well, if he's a silviculturalist, I must be a morticulturalist. So that has resonated with a lot of poets too. So this is in the voice of dead logs. Thank you for your participation in the Blue River Bone Orchard's first bicentennial morticultural conference. The role of the dead in carbon budgeting. But don't think of it as over and done. We are everything that is still to come. All the indignities you're afraid will happen here. All the mortal invasions you keep from the house of the living, from the porches of your ears, the eaves of your seeing, openings you don't want eaten into, eggs hatching like little ideas in your brain, microbes growing furry, unspeakable words on your tongue, the dark juices of your heart gone to feed the living. Upstart salal and Oregon grape, sapling of cedar and hemlock and fir, thriving in our cold, wet breath, perceived by you as a chill in the air, in your green bones, those green bones with which you thought you'd walk away from here, unchanged. But in your breath now, our breath, and in our breath, these words, which you will remember by a new stiffness in your limbs, a whisper in your many branched veins, and at last by silence and time and your dust will rain on us with the rain, and we will take you in as easily as you breathed our air today. We eagerly await your input. Come on down. Come on down. And I'll finish with a resurrection poem. Another persona poem. It's called Turkey Vulture Talking. It's probably true, I think too much, sitting all night in my dead tree. But I'm a changed bird come sunrise, Mr. Transformer, Mr. Capability. So maybe I can't fly with a hoot, drunk all the time on old meat. I'm honest, reliable. I'll get to the job if I have to walk. Oh, just a wobbly old buzzard, not good for much, cogitating, regurgitating, ferrying souls across that final river, getting sadder and uglier. Is it worth it? Well, look at me. I've still got my appetite.